It shouldn't take too long because I think your imagination is great. I'll edit this down, but
What? You can't edit down my imagination?
I absolutely have to every single week, Ambassador. I have no choice. Captain's Pod, Stardate 1453 14.1. Welcome aboard the Starship's Enterprise, and thank you for joining us as we take a brief shore leave from the world of CinemaSins to explore the universe of Star Trek. I'm your Captain Ian Whittington, and with me as always, I usually keep her in a portable transporter buffer. It's Ambassador Deneé.
It's really nice in there, though, honestly.
Is it? Is it warm?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
okay, I'm going to make it colder.
It's not about temperature. It's just about, like, you know when you wake up and you think, where have I been?
Yeah.
It's that
Where was
all
I
the
that
time.
whole time? Like when you take an afternoon nap and suddenly you think it's Thursday and you started on Monday?
Or if you are an ex-partier, you might experience, like, deciding to drive when you really shouldn't have.
Right.
And then you're just like, how did I get home?
Yeah, don't drink and drive, kids. That's please, I hope nobody wakes up thinking that. Just with their, like, car keys. And this is the worst. Let's not start the show with this.
Not that I have ever done that before.
Don't synth-a-hol and drive, kids.
Kids should not be listening to our show. This is an R-rated podcast.
Adults also don't take this advice. Kids, you shouldn't be drinking anyway.
Learn from
let
my
alone
mistakes.
drink and driving.
Who said I was drinking?
No one. This is hypothetical.
Okay.
Wait, you said ex-partier. Oh, I guess that's probably on me then. My brain assumed party meant alcohol.
Yeah, I've never been really into alcohol.
Yeah, just the shrooms. Just heroin and shrooms.
No, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, my version of partying is like way mellow.
Yep, just Bible camp. Okay. We have got
Bible camp, but I'm just like, how did I get here?
How did I get home? I had a vision. Let's get into the show before we offend anybody else. We have got a lot of show to get through with the finale of Discovery Season 5 and the last ever episode of Discovery, unless they do a weird edition sometime in the future, which I highly doubt. Ambassador!
I hope that I am surprised in a good way.
Well, we are going to very quickly just run down our predictions for this episode. I
predicted this is the last episode.
Yeah, I predict this is also going to be the last episode. It would be hilarious if we were wrong on that
Somehow wrong, yeah.
One of my predictions has already come true, that this episode would be about an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 minutes long. It's like regular hour length, but then 15 to 20 minutes to wrap up the end of season stuff that they had to do. So that makes sense. My big swing is that we're going to have an Iconian link, and that this tech is going to be linked to the Iconians, and the progenitors will be working with them to make the life-giving tech. And Rayner will defeat the Breen commander, but will die in the process. He's going to be our only casualty. Rayner's going to be the only death.
I don't know. I think Spore Boy could probably go.
Stamets, that would be so weird if Stamets died. That would be such a sucky ending for him. I love Spore Boy.
Well, really, isn't death a sucky ending for anyone at this point?
Fair. But Rayner's he's only been in this season. I don't want him dead. I think he's great, but I think he could be an easy one to shore.
This season is clearly about Locke and Maul.
Yeah.
And so I think
I forgot about them.
We need to think how they're going to end. Either Maul will let Locke go, or Locke will become the hero of the... at this point, with the Breen War just right on the verge, I think they're going to give Locke the Jesus entrance, savior style, and he'll just keep all the Breen in line and save everyone from the brink of war.
I think you're right. I think that's how it's going to happen. Yeah.
But if our prediction about the progenitor check only being like a once and done sort of a scenario, then we can't let that happen over the return of an entire planet.
That's true.
Unless Book has to make a choice, because there is the immediacy of war versus the entire, his entire planet returning.
Yeah.
So does Book say, okay, fine, I'll go ahead and let my planet go so that Locke will stop this immediate war?
Well, it could go that way, kind of parallel to that. The only way to kind of prevent a war is that neither of them get the tech. Like, if the Federation get the tech, the Breen go to war. If the Breen get the tech, it's the end of the universe. So I think Book might use it to bring his planet back, and that's the tech done. That's it. One and done. They can't use it anymore. and the Breen accept that, and they go their separate ways because there's nothing left to fight for.
I mean, maybe.
It makes more sense to bring back Luck as Breen Jesus, though. Breezus.
How disappointing would it be if it was like Book brought back his planet and there was nothing really to come from Locke and Maul the entire time?
It would be weird. It would be so strange.
Like, it feels like they have to do something with Locke and Maul because they've been building it up.
Because their story has been, this season has been focused on their story so much. So I have no doubt there'll be some kind of resolution. I just can't quite put my finger on whether he's going to be resurrected. It's either going to be nobody gets the tech and that ends the war, or Locke comes back and ends the war by leading the Breen as the one true Breezus.
Finally, Fred shows up and the guardian of the library finally wakes up.
Yeah. Wait, what? The archive?
Yeah. It's just like the snail that just very slowly comes awake.
That's so Jim Henson. Just this really powerful snail that defends the library. That's amazing. We've got to see Fred and the ISS Enterprise. That's still top of our list of predictions. Well, with that, let's head over to the holodeck to watch the finale of Discovery Season 5. We'll see you all in 10 forward for a full debrief. 2 to beam out. Welcome to 10 Forward, the part of the show where we grab something from the programmable matter dispenser and share our immediate thoughts and feelings on the episode we just watched. Most important question first, what would you like to send us off away from Discovery?
Is it like a magical chrysanthemum or something?
Yeah, I want some cabbages.
I want a magical cabbage.
Magical chrysanthemum cabbage. That's what we want. I want a source of separation that isn't a massive disappointment. But with that, let's have a synopsis before we start lambasting this episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a little bit of a sneak peek on how we feel about this one.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
so
It's gonna be good.
Here's the synopsis.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking died.
But I'm okay with that. Well, Locke finally died.
Locke
finally died.
I guess Locke died. We know, and Fred's probably really dead now
Fred,
too.
Definitely. I can't believe it. No Fred. No Enterprise.
So in today's episode, we finally get to the progenitor tech, and all of our predictions about how to fucking coolly use it and everything is all just flushed down the goddamn black hole.
I actually predicted this in episode 1. Never mind.
I like how you're like, I predicted it, but then I also predicted if we were going to use it, it was going to be this way, but then I also...
That's how predictions work. You just say them all and claim to be psychic.
Michael finds the stuff and decides to flush it down the toilet, and everybody gets together for a big last hug on the bridge that was recorded at some point in time. And also, a woman has to have a baby cliche. Ding. And that's about all you need to know about today's. Oh, and also, like you said, there's some saucer separating happening, and whatever is in between is spored. And that's important. Yeah. Oh, also, we've decided to abandon Zora in the middle of goddamn nowhere.
For the sake of canon, because that's where she ends up in the future, in the far future, in the short treks. So we had to fix that. They had to do so much work to get there, and we'll talk about that later on. Overall thoughts and feelings before we get into the nitty-gritty of the episode. Ambassador, how did you like the finale and the send-off for Discovery?
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know. I just didn't feel it.
Yeah.
Did you feel it?
No, I didn't feel it.
I didn't feel it.
This had a phenomenally weak first half. It got better in the second half. And then the tacked on bit should have been released as a separate episode. The bit in the future. That should have been its own thing that came out in a couple of weeks or something, or to tie in a bow or whatever. But it was... Man, it felt messy and rushed and meh. And I hate being negative. I really do. There was some good stuff in there. But overall, it was a very meh ending.
Okay, so last week we kind of talked about how I didn't know if we wanted to spend a lot of time in the portal, right? And then we spent a lot of time in the portal.
Basically. And that makes sense, kind of. The whole time in the portal kind of makes sense that it took this long to get there.
So it wasn't like going in and getting the tech and coming out. I guess maybe it could have been, but it didn't end up being that. And so I think it was like, for me, it was for the story that I guess that they were trying to tell. It was fine. But like my imagination fucked me over, I feel like.
Because you imagined something you would have preferred.
Yeah. Like, the Quasians are fucking dead, man.
Yeah, they didn't do anything with the world rig. That was really interesting. Well,
also, can we just for a quick second talk about how distracting the Progenitor's teeny tiny little ear is?
No.
It's so
teeny tiny. It's
the smallest little ear. And
do you want to flick it still?
No, I feel like if you flick it, it'll fly off. But it's just...
It just hides inside their head?
I mean, was that how little it was when we first saw a Progenitor?
100%,
okay, because this is my first time to see one.
A really faithful recreation of the Progenitors from TNG,
tiny.
including like the white cloak and whatnot. Very, 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 very accurate.
It was so small. And honestly, I'm sure there's some really great dialogue that was happening, but I just kind of kept staring at it like... You know, like the little baby hand meme where some people will like talk and they have like the little baby arms.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that for me. And I just kept watching it going, why? That's really interesting. It's very like I just didn't expect the proportion to be so different. And you know, everybody's different. Everybody's made different. I don't need everybody to look like a perfectly portioned person because there is no perfectly portioned person. But I just am not used to seeing a teeny tiny ear on a big noggin. Yeah. Anyway, that's really...
I'm glad that was your main takeaway from the episode.
That was my main takeaway from the episode, yeah.
Well, we pick up exactly where we left off. Burnham flies through the space butthole portal thing and lands inside a place that she can't describe through lack of imagination, not because it's indescribable. Starts wandering around, starts touching everything. What did you think of the inside of the Progenitor's tech? Did it give you all of the oohs and wows? Like, because that's the big payoff for the season. Like, that is what we've been working towards. And I think that might be where I was a little underwhelmed as well.
I don't know if they could have done anything justice to what could have been. And that was, I think, why I didn't want to spend time inside the portal in the first place, is because... trying to show me what this futuristic, so far billions of years in the past, so advanced technology looks like, and the fact that it looks like a whole bunch of iPad screens. But again, I'm still trying to figure out what they were trying to go for here. So I guess like the idea is that the Progenitors are all dead, but somehow one of them has some sort of just to the left of center reality essence remaining to have a conversation with whomever arrives at this place.
Beyond our comprehension.
Yeah. And they liked flowers a lot, or cabbages or whatever they are. And they also like triangles a bunch. And that's really all we need to know about that, I guess. I don't know what it would have been to make it more interesting to me either. Like, I kind of wanted to see them struggle with the technology. And so to kind of couch that Michael is a good enough person to just, you know, dump it down a black hole and kill the final Progenitor's essence.
It did. Bye-bye.
I guess it's like the only way to make it make sense so that it's not, you know, used. Because we've been saying the whole time this power is obviously too powerful. But I fucking wanted to see it. Like, I wanted to see what was going to happen.
Yeah, kind of see it do something. Just have like one big trick before it goes. Because the obvious thing is destroy it. Like, it's so powerful. I am still stunned that the original scientists that found it 800 years ago didn't destroy it. Like, that is the only answer.
Right. Like what did they use it for?
No, they didn't.
What did they
attempted
do
to
with
use it. It killed one of the scientists. They realized...
But one of them was able to chat with the Progenitor person.
Yeah, they got it wrong to begin with. Then they got it right, had a chat with the Progenitor and said, we're not ready. Help us make a puzzle so that when we are ready, we're ready. And we find it. And the right person will do it. Instead of just destroying it. Like, fucking destroy it. Just blow it up.
Right. And I think that's what feels a bit hollow to me as well. And, you know, the whole, like, in the portal... Since we're kind of talking about that, the whole like in the portal space, it was a bit confusing to me as well, because they're all like doorways to these places that pre-existed before the Progenitors, and they're just an open doorway. You know, Michael went into one and then had to get back through, and sometimes you're falling down and sometimes you're falling over. And a lot of what was being shown to us was being explained by Michael, you know, as a sort of just dialoguing as she was experiencing this, the gravity is different here, and isn't that obvious? And then we've got to look before technology existed, and so look, there's some swoopy weird stuff. I touched it last time and it seemed to yank me in, but now I'm going to just swoop it with my hand, and now it's going to turn into a portal.
Well, what's interesting is that it's I got the impression by the end of the episode that it's basically an observation deck of worlds that had been created, and then the original, not the progenitors, the original people that made this thing, whoever made it, use that to kind of keep tabs on the worlds that they've created. But the weird thing is that, and this will stand out probably for a lot of Star Trek fans, especially TNG fans, is that they pulled this progenitor storyline out of an episode of TNG and then plonked it in a room filled with my prediction, the Iconian technology, which is a room that creates gateways to different planets. That's also a TNG episode. So this felt like, it felt so similar to what the Iconians were doing. It didn't feel, I think that's why it felt anticlimactic to me, because like, oh, okay, it's basically a big transporter room and they used this to see the galaxy. Cool. It's weird that you pulled the progenitor thing from an episode, but didn't merge it with the Iconian stuff as well for me. Like, it didn't feel super original, and it's so harsh.
And that's part of it too, that I kind of was like, oh, well, let's make this a very interesting, struggle. Let's bring it out, use it, realize it's too much, and then fight to take it away. Like, you have so much time in this episode to do something, and they instead really spent a lot of time with the Michael struggling inside of this space. And this is, I think, maybe would have been a really interesting, maybe not really interesting, but it would have been an ending to just a regular Discovery season, but not a seasonal thing. But even still, I feel like I'd be disappointed whether this is the end of the show or not. And I think like that's something that's important to point out, is that this is, I don't know that I would have been happy either way, because like you're saying, it felt like everything was like an almost.
I think I know what it is. And I think this is the inherent, I say this as if I am the master storyteller. This is an inherent problem with 10 episode long, season long mysteries. As much as twists and turns can be annoying, deep down we want them and we enjoy them. Like, there's a reason we talk about M. Night Shyamalan movies being like, oh my gosh, did you see the twist? We actually enjoy that twist when it's a good one and it's a big one. This didn't have that punch at the end where it's like,
they didn't even kill anybody, and I'm not saying that it would have made it better. Sorry,
we didn't want them to kill anyone, but we
I did. I wanted people to fucking die.
It does increase the risk and like the investment, but it's just like, oh, okay, cool. The progenitor tech does exactly what we thought it does, in the way that we thought it did, with the motivations that we thought it did, and the only option is to destroy it. Like, all of our like postulating and theories and thoughts were unnecessary, because this landed the only way it could really land, unless you're doing something really bizarre. So I think when you have this season-long mystery, because Discovery seasons are all about really this mystery at the core. Like, season 4 was, where is this big anomaly coming from, and who are these aliens from beyond the galaxy? Season 3 was, what destroyed all of the starships? Season 2 was, what's going on with Spock and the red things? Season 1, what's going on with the mirror universe? Like, everything has a mystery, and this pitched itself as a mystery thing that didn't have a mystery at the end. Like, there was no concrete, there's the resolution. It just kind of ends as you expect it would. And I think that's why inherently we're a bit about it.
I mean, there's so many twists that could have happened, though. Bringing Locke back without telling us that he would have been mind wiped, and then Maul loses him and has to, like, that would have been interesting. And then he saves the Breen. Like, we were thinking that would be potentially the outcome. And it was interesting, I suppose, to watch them send the Breen someplace else. And maybe we should move on a little bit from our disappointment and talk about some of the other elements of the episode, because I'm going to be a little bit like about this one. But that was sort of interesting to me, and there was a little bit of a humor element to it. It's like, no, we can't do the way, can we? And the next scientist is like, no, we can't do the way, can we? And the episode leaned so heavily on what was happening in the portal, which I did not want. That we really missed some of the activity happening.
Way more interesting.
A massive battle happening.
Way more interesting on the Discovery.
And they did the same thing that they've done in the past, which is sort of like this whiplash back and forth. Like, it was like watching a tennis match if both tennis players were taking meth, just like there's like going fucking crazy. It's just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And we're seeing just the elements that we need to know. Like, they just figure out that they're going to have some kind of a poll thing. And then all of a sudden we're seeing it happen while the progenitor is talking about progenitor things. And we're kind of missing this battle that I thought was potentially interesting. And I guess it all happens pretty quickly too, because Book and Doctor are exposed to radiation potentially, and they're in a real shit situation on the edge of a black hole, and there's so much at stake. And so for us to just be like tra-la-laing in a field of poppy flowers with the progenitor, that could have been a great thing to sort of kick off the portal with. But instead we're kicking off like Michael having to fight some Breen, and then Michael having to fight multiple times with Maul, and these conversations with Maul that keep going. And I don't know, it was too much time in the portal instead of, I feel like, some pretty cool space battle stuff that I was really excited about.
I don't know how else they would have done it, but I do feel like just separating Discovery from Burnham it felt like a mistake. Like, I felt like we could have had both. Like, imagine if like Burnham was like, I love Rayner. I think he was awesome. I love seeing him in command. He was my favorite part of the episode, I think, weirdly. But imagine if it was Discovery racing to get to the portal. They do all of that stuff, and yeah, Burnham is the only one that can go through the portal. And we have that conversation just inside the portal after like all of that adventuring, flying through space stuff has happened, because it does kill the pacing a bit, and it does affect the momentum, because the show admits it, because the progenitor says, don't worry, time happens differently here. We can talk as long as we want.
Shit.
Your friends will be fine. But that still kills the momentum narratively for us. It's still hard to be jumping from Discovery, blowing up ships and doing all of that cool shit, to very contemplative conversation about the meaning of life and what we should do with this technology. Like, it's an oddly compositioned episode.
It's very, very evident that they needed Maul to have a redemptive arc so that she could join, this future, whatever's happening with the secret Infinity agency or whatever. And so and all these characters are going to exist on, and I think that that's okay, but they had so many moments where it felt like they were telegraphing someone's death. And okay, yeah, toy with me a little bit, make me think that someone's going to die, ramp up the stakes really, really high, but then there's to not have a payoff of even somebody giving their life for this mission. It just even that didn't have anything. I don't know. So there's like you're right. There's just a lot there's a lot in this episode that is like, man, if only, man, if only, man, if only. And it's a dangerous thing to do when you watch any show, is to kind of think, oh, I have a different and a better way of doing things. And so I don't want to spend too much time what ifing, but all of the cool thoughts that I had, just to watch them all be popped one by one.
That's a very personal and valid way to look at it.
It's oh fuck.
It didn't deliver in the ways that we wanted it to, and that's fine. Maybe I'm sure it did for some people, but I'm still really struggling with the setup that this is the end of the universe. This is the most important technology in the galaxy, and we must have it. And the revelation that we have to destroy it comes in the last episode. I was no, that I kind of wish that had been Discovery's mission from the beginning. This is too powerful. We should destroy it. It shouldn't have been a last minute, oh, no, we need to destroy this. I felt like that was pretty obvious from the beginning.
Me too. And I think that they want us to believe that would have been the case no matter what, because of how little time they spent. Michael tells her crew, I'm taking this tech and we're going to chuck it in the bin, and don't worry, my bosses are going to be fine with it. And I was like,
also, it's my choice.
Really?
So fuck off.
Okay. And she's right. She was chosen to be there. But all she has to do is be go through that portal and make a triangle shape with the negative space in between. You'll talk to the progenitor, and then they'll show you how to use it. It's not Maul could have accidentaled her way into that very situation.
Yeah.
She could have accidentally put together, because she's oh, I have it. I'm going to make a big triangle out of the little triangles. Or maybe she would have listened to Michael, and she would have knocked her out because Michael got distracted by Book. God, what a horrible moment that was. And like Michael would have let that fucking happen. The stakes are too high. She's not going to be oh, hold on, Maul. Just give me 1 second while I turn my back. Oh, yeah, that was so fucking stupid. But anyway, so Maul could have been the one that would have done it. And the only
we got there.
The other thing that was,
we solved the puzzle.
We did pretty easily too. And then the other question that I would have here is, So Maul activates this weapon, quote unquote, the wrong way, and it doesn't kill her instantly like maybe it would have the other scientist where there's a monument in the cabbage chrysanthemum field. I don't, what were they? Do we know?
Just flowers. Yeah.
We don't know. Then the portal starts to ramp up to be used.
But not in the right way.
Progenitor confirms, it's just charging. Not like shit's going to go sideways because it was the wrong person. More like, it's just charging up. By consuming energy from one of the black holes, which will fuck everything else up.
Yeah.
But the progenitor didn't put the technology there, yes or no? Did the scientists do that from the past, or did the progenitors put that
between
there?
The black hole?
Yeah. I think the progenitors did.
I think the portal was put there by the progenitors and because they needed the energy, and the scientists built the capsule around it. I think.
So the progenitors know ahead of time that if somebody fucks it up, it's going to create a bigger problem because it's going to consume one of the nearest black holes. Or is it because they moved the portal and it was too close to one of them that when it was activated the wrong way or whatever? Like, let's just say that the portal hadn't moved and it was going to be consuming energy. Would it have consumed Maul's energy? But because the portal was in front of the black hole, it was consuming the black hole's energy?
No, because Maul wouldn't have been nearly enough energy to do what it needs to do. So I think it has to be near a power source. So it's either it was always there and the scientists built the cabinet around it, or the scientists knew that it needed that. They found the portal somehow. They knew that it needed that amount of power, so they deliberately put it I think they actually put it between the black holes because they set up the clue for Lagrange point for it to be there, and knew that if the right person comes along and wants to use it, the energy source is there and available. But I don't know where the scientists originally found the portal. Either way, it doesn't. However it ended up between the black holes, it's there for the same reason. But what I don't understand is what Maul did wrong. Still charged it up. What was it charging to do? If you haven't done the triangles right.
So if you build an episode that has a lot of this potential and us trying to find the mystery and figure out like, what's the twist going to be? And you build up all of this potential for there to be great sacrifices of characters that we love and we just don't want to see them die, but won't they? And then you get to the end of the episode and you build up this progenitor's technology and you don't even answer the basic questions about how it could have worked. It's just stabbing holes in a balloon that you realize didn't even have any fucking helium to begin with, and it sucks.
Well, actually, it sucks. It did have helium, but the helium doesn't know how it got there because some other helium put it there. Like, even that was a little bit, like, it makes sense, but it was a little bit wah-wah when the progenitors are just like, we didn't build it. Somebody before us did it. We call them the progenitors. And it just, this endless cycle. We get it. It's cyclical. It's fine. But all of it was just a bit samey. Like, it's a little bit, I guess it. Cop-out is like the harshest criticism I can give. But what it comes down to is, even if the mystery is disappointing and the resolution is disappointing, did we have fun along the way? I didn't in this episode. I think I did overall throughout the season, but I didn't in this episode. And what stood out to me, just a hard pivot into something else I didn't like, the action in the first half of this episode is unnecessary and borderline unwatchable. Like, the fighting between Maul and Burnham, the spinning camera, the anti-gravity stuff, the jumping between worlds, the
hurricane,
billion cuts, the fight between Burnham and the First Breen, that is dizzying action, and it's not needed. I didn't need this fisticuffs punching fighting scene. The action that's happening, if you have to have action and you want to satiate people, it's with the Discovery and all of the shit that's happening there. Like, beam over some Breen intruders onto Discovery and have your fist fights there. That the first quarter of the episode, all of that fighting between Burnham and everybody else did nothing for me at all.
Because it sucks, right? Like, there were some really great highlights this season for me. Like, last episode, I had so much fun. And there was something that happened between last episode and this episode. Like, when it started and we were right in the middle of this battle and, Raynor is at the helm. And I'm like, oh, yeah. A lot has happened in the course of the last week for me. And I'm thinking, okay, oh, God, okay, this is where we're at. So it's got that kind of interesting thing where it draws you back in and we're in this portal and so, like, there's just so much experience that I'm experiencing while I'm watching this, of trying to kind of piece back together all of the things that I'm supposed to know from all of these different seasons. And they did do a decent job of kind of recapping that. Like Michael has a couple moments when she talks about that the scientists set up all of these clues so that you would remember how important it is to be, you know, a deep thinker and have a deep care of all life and all this stuff. And so that's okay to do. But I guess there were no actual stakes in this, except for if the Breen, I guess, got the tech, or if Maul got the tech. But even if Maul had got the tech at that point in time, she would have just been bringing back Locke, who would have been essentially just reborn a new person. And then I guess she would just go back in and grab the tech and use it. I think
Maul would just move on. She wouldn't want to use it again.
The Breen.
She would just leave it.
The Breen would have been so the real true tension of this isn't even Maul. It was the Breen. Yeah. And then they stopped that from happening, because even Saru, so let's talk about Saru a little bit. Like, he has this moment where he stands off with the other person, who, by the way, they just won that war for her by sending off the Scion guys. Like,
you're right,
she just won all that real quick.
They just changed the dynamic of the Breen political system. She's definitely in charge now.
Yeah. And that was my question earlier. Where did they go? Can you explain that to me? So they send off, they spore out the Breen, but what happened?
They send them to the edge of the galaxy.
How did they know that?
Because the spore drive can go anywhere instantly in the galaxy.
But wasn't it not working very well, and they couldn't be very specific?
Only because they were damaged when they were arriving at the black hole. So it was damaged, but now it's working perfectly because it needs to for the plot.
Okay. So
they sent them decades and decades. It will take them decades to get back. It's really messed up. That should cause such a political incident.
It will in a couple of decades. I guess that's whenever their son is going to be taking captainship.
During the flash forward, they should have had the Breen Dreadnought turning up again. It's we're back, fuckers, and we're pissed off.
Yeah. There's no Scion. Everything that they were promised from Maul is gone.
Just all worked out.
And then this tyrant would have taken over, this lady tyrant that, Raynor was going on about. The tenseness of it was really the Breen getting the technology.
Yeah, that was the risk, which was never going to happen.
And potentially this other, more even powerful Breen that we only got to see on screen like a floating head. She was the real tense thing, right?
If she got hold of it. I mean, if either of the Breen got hold of it, it's bad news. But because this weapon is so important, this technology is so important, we all know it. We all know the Breen aren't getting it. There's no way this episode ended with the Breen getting it and having that evil future. So you're right. The stakes feel absolutely minimal unless you put one of the characters at risk.
Okay, so this is I'm kind of getting a picture for what this episode felt like. It felt like I walked into a room where there was a whole bunch of, those blow up mallets.
Yeah.
And each blow up mallet was a character. Yeah. And I just got beat about the head with all of them. And there's a bunch. And while being beat about the head, I'm asking myself, what's the most important thing that's happening right now? Yeah. There's just so much kind of happening. And yes, there's a pause when we go into the portal in a way, but we were in a hurricane, out of a hurricane, jumping in and out of portal rooms and arguing and having things going on with Maul. And then there's pretender conversations. And then there's the creation of life. We saw life created and all that stuff. It was a lot. It was a lot going on. And then when we're outside of that, there's so much happening. And then we get to the end and then there's so much happening even then. And maybe the mallet bopping kind of slowed down a little bit at that point in time because the pacing had shifted so significantly from the end of the fucking world to a wedding and then a baby.
Yeah.
A grown-up baby, but still. And then I felt like at the end, Discovery felt sorry for me, the viewer, and just needed to stop. And that's kind of and then it's just kind of okay, we're done now. One final little boop. On the top of the head, Boop.
Here's the original Discovery that you've never seen before, by the way. They downgraded it, but we'll talk about that later. I want to give it some credit because it does have a lot to do, and it didn't know that it would also have to end all of Discovery. But really, you can tell that it ends on the beach as they transport to Kovich, and then they tack on the extra 15 minutes of future stuff that happens. But I do wonder if we're judging it more harshly because we know we're not getting any more discovery, but I do also think that it's just a disappointing ending to a 10-hour quest. Imagine this being a 10-hour movie like Indiana Jones or something. It would be a disappointing ending.
That is an interesting thing to think about. If we had just watched this all the way through without stopping, would we feel differently about the end? Because the start and the stop of the seasonal weekly release you do lose some of the momentum just naturally because of, life and everything that happens in between each episode. I don't know. It makes sense that, of course, they're not going to use the technology. Like that does make sense. And as I kind of get further away from it and just being disappointed by watching it, I agree with you. I think that they did what they needed to do, and it had some heavy lifting to do. And I feel like it's exactly what we thought. We wish that they had spent less time doing some things and more time doing other things that they couldn't have known unless they could reflect on it. So let's just talk about how you feel that they ended it. Like, what did you think about basically we get to see them wed, and when Book and her reunite on the beach, I feel like that was when they thought the show was going to be ending.
For sure.
Like,
That's
that
the
was
end of
meant
the
to be the
episode.
season
Yeah,
end.
and then the next mission for season 6 would have been something from Kovich because they were already planning season 6. Like, they were fully into this is what happens next.
Right. And we need to talk about Kovich because I don't understand that reference. We'll get there in a second.
One of the few things I actually did like about the episode.
My favorite part of you seeing the Kovich thing was that you're like, oh, fuck. Like, oh, now I actually like something about this episode.
Fuck, that makes so much sense. That's great. Like, I really liked it. I'm sure people will hate it as well, but I really, really liked it.
So the tacked on end, kind of like what they recorded at the end, how did you feel about it?
Like, it ties everything up in a bow in, I guess the biggest question that you always have with these things is what happens to the crew next, especially with Voyager, for example. They just come home and we don't really know how they get reintegrated, how they see everybody. Thankfully, we now know a bit more about Janeway and 7 of 9, but that took 20 years. TNG, we managed to get some movies, but we're always like, what happens next? This, unlike pretty much any other Star Trek show, gives us a big time jump, like probably 35 years into the future, perhaps 40 years, something like that, where we know that Tilly has been at the Academy. We know that Burnham and Book have had a family. Starfleet continues on. In that sense, it does what it needs to do. Like, I get a satisfaction out of everyone's kind of happy, nothing tragic, nothing like world-endingly tragic happens to everybody. In my headcanon, they're all happy and off having adventures and doing what they want to do. The jarring thing for me was having to de-engineer Discovery to fit in with the short trek. So this came up when Burnham and Rayner get into that time slippage episode and they get chucked into the future. And we explain that Zora is like, oh, are you another hallucination? So Zora, we know from a short trek that came out a couple of years ago called Calypso, ends up on Discovery. Discovery ends up abandoned like 1,000 years in the future. And it was always kind of like, how did Discovery get there? And how did that happen? How did she end up alone? The ship. How did they end up alone? And it got even more confusing because we know in season 3, Discovery ends up in the future, but immediately gets a refit. So the Discovery that we saw in Calypso was not the same as the Discovery that gets a big refit. So what this ending had to do was un-engineer all of that, turn Discovery back into the original Discovery, and then send it out into space as a red directive to tie that up in a bow. So the ending was already written for it. So it had to spend time to get us to that point to come full circle with the short trek. As much as that took to explain, that's why that didn't work for me, because I'm like, man, you had to do so much work to get us back to square one to satisfy that. And for me, that robs a little bit from letting the show end in its own way. It felt beholden to that short trek.
You know, that's in the back pocket the whole time when they're making this this show. You know that,
and maybe they had a plan to get there. Yeah, in a more convoluted way. Maybe that would have been part of season 6 or 7 or whatever. But in this case, it was just, we have coordinates. Bye, Zora.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where you live now.
Yep, there's not really an explanation for it. And I didn't understand it as a person that was watching it. Like, I understand her having a moment with Zora because Zora is this character, and I like that they kind of included her as part of the send-off. And it's obvious that they just are like, hey, everybody, we're just going to pay you for a day of shooting. Come on back and just mill about the very, very empty, bridge before we deconstruct it for whatever they're going to do with the set. But it was like, and seeing like everybody together hugging, you got the impression that this is the actors really having their last moment together as a crew. I did like that. Yeah. And that was kind of nice to see, that there's like a genuineness when Tilly and Michael hug, because that it's that moment between the actors when they're really like having like,
they don't have to act much.
They don't have to act much.
I would love to think that the wrap party was actually like Doug Jones was in his Saru outfit for the wrap party as well. Like, this is literally, they just let the cameras, like, kept rolling. And this was just them. Just go and hug each other and enjoy it.
Yeah. Like, it lasted a little bit too long for me, but I think that's because I'm watching this for the first time. Yeah. And, to that truth, Michael and Book on the beach didn't piss me off as much as it pissed you off, because it's my first time seeing them be, like, really sweet to each other.
Fair, it didn't really piss me off. It's what I expected.
You threw the computer across the room. I saw it.
I did. I've had to rebuild everything in Aaron's office. It was fine. It's what I expected. It is quite satisfying in a way that they get their happy ending. It's fine. Like, I'm fine with it. I think I would have been really pissed off if in season 6 they broke up again. I think this would have had to have been it. Like, they have to just be together now.
Yeah. And then we kind of like I didn't mind that. And I didn't mind even seeing the future, them as older folks and having raised a child and living a very Deanna Troy Riker-esque sort of feel from Picard. When we find
the little homestead.
Yeah, they're homesteading, and I don't mind that. I don't mind that there's this idea
I'm
that
fine for that ending, yeah.
We have this desire to return to a very complicated simplicity after trekking the stars for so long.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that, and I didn't mind seeing kind of what their relationship would be like with her getting wax in her coffee and everything. But at that moment, I was like, how is this gonna end? How are we landing now the show ship? Because this is very clearly shifted into what we thought it was gonna be, not necessarily. It's very much like and now for the next thing, and now for the next thing,
Yep.
There was people in the chat that are talking about there being more endings to this than Lord of the Rings, and I definitely felt that too. I definitely felt that too. But like, I actually, for a split second, I thought they were back on his planet because
back on Quajon.
Yeah, because the deer had the dots.
Maybe they were,
but I thought Quajon was dead.
Yeah, maybe we just don't know. It's been a long time. It's been 40 years. They did some world building and shit.
But what I thought is that they like only kind of secretly put it, so like they made a show of it, and she actually did go back and use the tech and just didn't tell anybody.
Be so great.
So in my mind, I'm like, oh, are they gonna do it? And they didn't do it.
Like, there's a little like desk at the back of her room that has like the triangles in order, and she was like, I'll just keep them in my back pocket.
But there was mention of him planting something somewhere, so I don't know what that meant.
Oh yeah,
what does that fucking mean?
I kind of missed that. He planted it somewhere. Clearly it was somewhere I was supposed to know about, but I couldn't remember where it was. Maybe the live chat can help us out and make me look intelligent.
It was a sanctuary planet from S3, from season 3. Where the book took the train. Yeah, there was those freaky fucking worms that were in the water and stuff. So
that vaguely rings a bell.
The freaky worms.
He rescued a species of worms and sent them to that planet. So it's not a new Quajon. It's just a safe planet.
Okay, because there was that big gigantic tree, and I did wonder like, what was that? Because it looked a little out of place color wise.
So they're living on the sanctuary planet now. Then that makes sense.
I don't know what. Right. So sanctuary, because that's where they took the things that survived whatever happened on Quajon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a Quajon creature. Potentially.
I believe I don't know about the deer. I don't know, but there's I think it's like an amalgamation of stuff that's been saved.
So so then that was it. But I thought that we actually like reinvented it. in a way.
No.
Okay.
Probably as close as they can get. I still think that would have been the best ending.
Like they just kind of secretly, like they just like, we're going to tell everybody that we got rid of it, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it for now.
That would be so funny.
I mean, a little pocket portal. Who doesn't want one of those? You can just put it in the pattern buffer, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
and then you can just have the progenitor's tech on your arm instead of a dead person.
Mm-hmm. So overall, that kind of worked-ish enough for you to wrap up a show that you've never seen before? Because it must be so weird for you. Like, it doesn't mean much to you because this is your first season with these people.
I will, if somebody asks me, have you seen Discovery? And I say, I just watched the final season of Discovery and I think it was awesome because it was.
Yeah.
I
actually agree.
There's so much good stuff happening on this show that the way that it ended, I really am struggling. And this is, again, part of just the struggle of doing the show this way, where we don't spend any time really thinking about what we just watched. And I think that it's a very interesting format. But as time goes on, I think it'll be easier to accept that this is the story that they told. But I won't let this final episode, just like I won't let a couple of shit stories about Jadzia Dax ruin that character for me, because I'm not actually that person. I don't know that I like it. I don't like it, but it's still a good story. It's still a great show. I love seeing Star Trek. I love that Star Trek is still on TV. I love that there's good sci-fi. There's so much to watch. There's so much to see. The battles are beautiful. There was so much cool shit, and they're really swinging for the fences, and they did a ton in this finale that I think I'm going to really enjoy. But there was a swell last episode that I kind of wish that instead of releasing episode 1 and 2 together, that they would release the last 2 episodes together, because the momentum from last episode, I was so fucking excited that if I had that going into this episode, I wonder if I would feel differently, because I missed that moment of Raynor calling the shots. Like, I missed the impact of that this episode, because there's this juxtaposition of being thrown into this portal sequence that I feel was just lacking, and I'm gonna die on that hill, I guess. But
I think it still would have been disappointing from a marketing standpoint. It doesn't make much sense either, because you want people to come back week after week. So the first 2 episodes, you got to suck them in, but it would be kinder for the fans to do the last 2 back to back, because I think that works. It works better as a feature-length finale, but I still think it would have been a bit rough. It just would have been buffered by a better opening hour, a disappointing middle, and an okay end.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that you're disappointed with this finale tells me that you're actually invested in the show and in Discovery, and I don't want to downplay.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to downplay that this was your first experience of Discovery, and overall, what I've seen from you is have a lot of fun, and you've like become invested in a lot of these characters that you've just met. You know more about Michael Burnham than I thought you'd ever know. Tilly, Saru, like, it's fun to see you enjoy these characters more than I anticipated you would as well. So I think it shows that it's been a good season, just with a bit of a floppy ending.
Yeah, I think that I really appreciate the characters a lot. And so if somebody was to ask me if they should watch it, I think I would say yes, especially if they like the seasonal kind of, instead of, each episode being its own little universe or just its own little show.
It's a big undertaking to do a 10-hour adventure.
I do wonder for a Discovery fan how they feel. And unfortunately, we're probably going to miss that perspective on this show to a certain degree, because I can't imagine somebody being really happy with the ending for some of the characters that didn't get a lot of the same screen time. Like, obviously they're spending a lot of time on the captain and book, even in their bookend, like the tie-in piece. But we're not really getting, where the scientist Spore Boy goes, or what happens with the spore technology. So unless Star Trek picks up at this timeline and carries on, like, there's just a lot of unanswered questions that I think a bigger Discovery fan would maybe be feeling even more empty about. For me, because I'm only invested in the season finale, I got everything I needed, because the characters all did what they needed to do. Like, I really wasn't too invested in Spore Boy, or a lot of the other, like, I don't know. I just wasn't like super, like, we didn't get to see Tig Notaro's character, again. We kind of got to see him a little bit, but And that's okay with me because I feel like they did a good service for me, the new fan watching this. But I wonder how people feel that have watched this for a long time, and if they kind of feel a little bummy.
Is lukewarm.
Yeah,
like it's okay. Like no one's saying it's absolutely horrible, but it's a bit of a lukewarm reception.
Yeah.
But people wanted more. Like I would still be happy if there was a season 6 of Discovery. Like I really would. This does something for me that Strange New Worlds doesn't, in terms of being like further in the future.
Yeah.
And I do like mystery stories. And I do like hanging out with these people. Like I really genuinely do like Saru and Michael and now Raina, and there's a couple of people missing that I would have liked to hang out with more, but that choices were made for this season. So yeah, it is an interesting one. I'm really interested to see how Discovery is looked back upon in 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And I think it might age better than we're watching it in the moment, is my instinct.
Yeah. Well, again, I think as long as there's really great sci-fi on TV, I'm fucking happy, because it's a genre that needs to live on. And so that's why I would never be like, oh, this was the shittiest show, you should never watch
absolutely
it.
Not. No.
But we're battling my imagination, which is a fierce imagination.
Oh, that's a bold undertaking.
Yeah.
A couple of other positives I did want to talk about before we get into our silly sins. We nudged on it, but did Action Saru doing diplomacy shit work for you? I actually really enjoyed that scene and seeing his fierceness. Like Doug Jones being fierce is really fun for me, and I like it. And I like some diplomacy tactics, some wargaming.
That's an interesting question. I don't know a lot about Saru, and I think that's one thing that because he left sort of the space early on, like that I was that I'm gonna miss some of the nuance of that. But I did like it. I did like watching him go toe to toe with someone, especially like somebody powerful like the Breen, and of course the season did a good job of making the Breen, this powerful force. Did I believe that it would work? Yeah.
Oh, no, not at all.
I did actually. I believe that more than I believe, like, let's just launch the spore drive around. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean,
it's the same thing. It's political jargon versus
yeah. I see that. Yeah, that's fair.
And so
that's fair.
They sent him off. He's been out there doing his thing, but I don't know if he was bluffing or not, and I think he was. Because I don't know that he has that kind of power.
Oh, hell no. I mean, he does, but I don't think he'd use it that way.
Yeah. So it's interesting to me to kind of go, I don't know if he's like, does he have the relationships he's talking about? Because how fucking cool would that be if he had become sort of this really powerful, person, and we were kind of taking a peek at his ability to rally a whole bunch of people to do something.
But that does kind of work for me because he's been gone the whole season. Like he has been building these relationships in this new role, but I got the impression Discovery was maybe on this mission for a few days. Like how quickly did he build up these relationships? Because this pursuit has been like maybe a couple of weeks. I don't think we're talking about months and months and months of pursuing.
That's true. And it is difficult to kind of, put it all together, because the idea here is that all of today's episode was happened in under an hour.
60 minutes.
Yeah, because that's how long, Book and Doc had before they would turn into some sort of radiation soup or something. But yeah, like I liked the part where he figured out that because they weren't interested in the trade route, they already had a presence there, and he was using that to his tactical advantage. I felt like cutting away and coming back to it just cut that moment off for me, kind of like because the show is telegraphing how big of a move it's going to be or whatever. And I was really tired of being cut around. Again, it just felt like I was just being bashed around this episode.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
It lost a bit for me there. I think because I get the impression that this isn't the Saru we normally see, and that's why it's really fun to watch that particular moment. But I think it was
He's
lost
had the best
on
arc. He's had the best arc for sure. Season 1 Saru would shock you, I think. And I think you'd be pissed off by him for the first half of Season 1. He really comes into his own Season 2, Season 3 onwards. He has a great arc where we find out some stuff about him.
I do like the idea that he started off by saying, like, I'm Kelpian and I'm hunting you. And it's like, it's a fucking dreadnought. Shut up.
Just stop it. But that does speak to his character, where it was always assumed that Kelpians were prey. And this is a discovery that they found out, excuse the pun, during Discovery, that they aren't prey, they're actually predators. So it's a really interesting callback to his species
Yeah.
that you're understandably not going to get.
I'm not going to get it as much, but I didn't mind it. We also got to see a glimpse of the future and look at some new like uniforms. Did you like that?
Yeah, I'm always just like, oh, uniforms, yay! Oh, I'm fine. I like a new uniform.
Okay.
I always like it with the pips in the front. Yeah, it was a nice evolution from the Discovery uniform that we the 32nd century uniform onwards. I like
because
that.
pips can bring pressure. Okay,
They sure can. Those pips mean something. They're dramatic
but they're
when you take them
supposed
off.
to. Okay.
This is such an interesting moment. I went from elated to so quickly when they mentioned the saucer separation, because I was like, this is a thing that Discovery can do. It can separate its saucer. That's amazing. I can't wait. And I literally missed it.
You did.
We had to roll it back. I was checking the time, which isn't a good sign, but I was checking the time to see what we were on
during this show.
I did not. Okay. Did I?
You definitely sent some internal
I replied to a message.
Yeah.
I replied to a Slack message.
When I saw that, I was like, oh, he is checked out. Meanwhile, I was over here checking my messages too multiple times. So, yeah.
So I missed it. And you were like, you just missed the saucer separation while Burnham was talking.
Yeah.
And then so I rolled it back and I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, it's done. I was like, oh, you built that up, you teasing Watsits. It could have been, I wanted like a boop, 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 boop. And like a so chung, like a really dramatic separation.
Yeah.
But
it
as
was
much
pretty
nonsense,
dramatic.
As much nonsense as the quantum entanglement spore drive stuff was, it looked really cool. It was really fun to see like the lightning spinning between the saucer section and the drive section, and then the Breen ship like almost reluctantly spinning around and then getting whooped away.
Yeah.
All of the nonsense. It's so mean, but it's kind of a cool swing.
So
kind of a cool set piece.
Does the Doctor have to be in that little box every time that they...
He's the map. Yeah.
He's the
He
what?
has to be the map. He is the navigator. He has to be connected to it. He ties his brain into his mycelial DNA into the spore drive and plots the coordinates.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so I obviously missed a lot. We're not going to spend a lot of time because this is the final
season 1 stuff
of this one. But so what did they do the first time they used the spore tech?
They were kind of like, oh man, this is all the way back in season 1. Because
he hasn't always been Spore Man, or what, did he become Spore Boy?
Yeah, he became Spore Boy because he merged.
Okay, so then what did they do first?
I know they started with a tardigrade. They basically had a giant, huge tardigrade that was tied into the mycelial network, and they were using that creature that creature was in the tube, and they were using it to navigate the galaxy.
With its consent?
No.
So it's like when Voyager used those flyy creatures.
100%. Yeah, it's the same. But they're not killing it. They were just like kind of plugging it in.
Where is it now?
Oh, I think it died.
So they did. They killed it.
Yeah, there was an evil captain that killed it from the Mirror Universe.
Well, the tardigrade didn't know that. It was just...
So I thought there was something before the tardigrade. That's why I was hesitating. But I think it sounds like it did start with the tardigrade animal abuse.
Wow.
And then eventually they found a way to plug Stamets in. And now he's the navigator.
Is he going to die because of this too?
No, they found a way around that.
Okay.
It was doing some shit to him, but...
Okay, chat's saying it didn't die. Okay.
Oh, okay. It didn't die, they let it go.
Okay.
But it was in pain. I think it was going to die if they didn't stop using it.
Well, I mean, God, holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
It's a lot. So
then they gave the burden to one of the people. So we have Spore Boy, who is the all powerful map, and then you have Michael, who can use this technology and who hid it just on the horizon line of the black hole so that no one can see it, and she's going to go back later and build, and that's that's going to be...
They killed it. Okay. They killed it. It's done.
They literally flushed it down the toilet. That's what they did.
Yeah.
I can't get over it.
It's amazing.
It just happened so fast.
I guess the final thing is the Kovich ending.
Oh yeah, who's that guy? Yeah. What is this going on? Like, why does he have Geordi's visor hanging out on his, like, doesn't fucking... I know Geordi doesn't need it anymore, but maybe he wants that.
Right, and it may not be Geordi's visor. Lots of people wear visors, as we find out in Lower Decks.
That's Geordi's visor.
Of course it is.
We've got Picard's wine.
We've got Picard's wine, Sisko's baseball, Geordi's visor. Fuck you to Voyager. So Kovic reveals himself to be Agent Daniels as a big reveal. Now, Agent Daniels is from Enterprise, which is the prequel series that takes place about 80 years before, 80 to 100 years before Strange New Worlds. And this is when, like, it's decades after the Vulcans have introduced themselves to the humans. And it's just the beginnings of, like, kind of Starfleet becoming established. There's no Federation yet. The Federation kind of gets created at the end of Enterprise. And it's humanity's first kind of exploration into deep space. And during season 2 or season 3, a time agent called Agent Daniels comes from the future. He infiltrates onto the ship, pretends to be a crew member, but is actually from the future, and kind of nudges Archer in the right direction, Captain Archer, because if he doesn't do things a certain way, then the future is broken. So he's a time agent that does shit to fix time. So he's always been this kind of sketchy person that's trying to manipulate the timeline and whatnot. And yeah, it's a callback to Enterprise.
Okay.
He's died a few times as well,
That's
which is
he indicated
why,
that he's lived many lives.
Yeah, because he kind of lives parallel to time a little bit. But it explains a lot. I actually really, really enjoy that as a tie-in to like where Daniels ended up and why Kovic knows so much and how he got his notepaper as well. That kind of explains that.
He's a time traveler guy.
Yeah.
Do you think that if he would have gotten the tech that he would have used it and it's just kind of like, we'll just see what happens?
Now, I think he would have buried it. I think he would have kept it so that nobody else could use it, which is as good as destroying it. But I think he would have had it in his back pocket as like a, just in case I need to reseed the universe because I fucked it up, I've got an option to do so. But I like the tie-in.
There you go.
And that's fun. That's a fun little reveal. Like when you have that much build up to a name, I was like, I was fully expecting him to say I'm Q, and that's the reason why the continuum hasn't been seen. He's the last remaining Q, not John Delancey Q, but a different Q. But yeah, Agent Daniels was satisfying to me. I liked that.
Did we miss anything else?
No, I guess we didn't really talk much about Rayner and how he's commanding the crew. I liked that. It was fine. It was the most kind of Star Trek tropey stuff of escape the oncoming horde and then look at that nebula over there. We shouldn't go in there. By golly, we're going to go in there and we're going to detonate it. It's been done so many times I can't count. As soon as they said that nebula is dangerous, I was like, you're going through that nebula and you're going to detonate everything. You're going to pull a Riker maneuver. In fact, they should have said, no, they shouldn't have said Riker maneuver. No, Rayner should have said Riker maneuver because they pull this off in Insurrection. And I think Geordi says, if this works, I wouldn't be surprised if history calls it the Riker maneuver.
Well, they didn't.
And Riker's like, we got to survive first.
Well, they didn't.
They should.
They didn't do that.
They should have called it the Riker maneuver. Yeah. But anyway, what I did like is the torpedoes. Like the torpedoes were very TOS.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, the little like glowy balls. They looked different. So I liked the torpedoes.
Who should have died?
Nobody should have died. Michael, maybe. Michael should have like elevated to this higher power and became a progenitor, maybe. Rayner, the more I think about it, if he died, it would have been meaningless. And it would have been too much like Shaw. Saru. Maybe Saru dying as a diplomatic swing and a sacrifice. That you killed one of our diplomats, but we won't go to war. Like killing Saru would have given the Federation a lot of power to be like, we forgive you. Saru would have wanted us to forgive you. I'm not saying I want him dead, to be clear.
Well, that's why I asked you instead of saying it myself.
I think I would have cried. Yeah.
Well, but wouldn't that have felt different?
Yeah, that might have got some tears out of me. But emotion for the sake of emotion isn't necessarily a good thing. There is a world where it's actually braver to not kill anybody and let them all have a happy ending.
Wedding, it was a funeral.
Oh my gosh. Parallel universe, there is a funeral that happens. But I wouldn't have felt much.
Well, I think it's time for us to pip it and sin it, yeah?
Yeah. So how many pips will you give the finale and how many pips will you give the season?
I think I'm going to give 2 pips to the finale and 3 overall for the season.
I am right there with you. 2 pips for the finale, 3 pips for the season. I think overall it works as an adventure. The journey was the enjoyable part, even if the destination was a little bit of a disappointment. Overall, I still had a great time. And that time bug episode still gets me. I love that time travel episode. That was a highlight. That might be my favourite episode of Discovery now. With that, I think we talked about our predictions as well. We were all wrong. So with that, let's head over to engineering.
So fast this time. We were wrong about everything.
All of it is all wrong.
Actually, didn't I say that they were going to have a baby?
You said that at some point you said they were going to have a baby, and I said, yeah, of course they will. Yeah, we predicted that Book and Burnham would get back together. I'm going to hold on to my Iconians prediction. They just didn't say it. It's definitely the Iconians. We just didn't admit it. With that, for the last time, it's Black Alert. Let's head over to engineering.
Black Alert. Black Alert. Black Alert.
This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sin brains, remind ourselves that no TV shows without sin, even our beloved Star Trek. We are not going to shit upon Discovery in this segment. We're going to be doing our silly Billy sins, and I will kick us off with episode does not contain 42 of anything.
Oh, because of life and the meaning of whatever,
the meaning of life. Nothing. It wasn't 42 minutes long. 42 wasn't mentioned. There wasn't a nod to 42. There should have absolutely been 42 somewhere.
I think one of my silly ones is going to be like, just get on the fucking walkway. There's a goddamn
with
walkway.
The cabbages. You're 6 foot away from
your
the
magical cabbage walkland.
You and Mol.
And
just waddling through the magic corn.
Yeah. And we've got the nice little view, and just like a couple to your left is a
there.
walkway.
There's no need. It was so confusing, and I almost didn't mention this, but I feel validated by the live chat. Who several people mentioned this and were like, "Why didn't you just pick the fucking path?"
Right, that was confusing to me.
Baffling.
Silly, but it's true.
I had 2 back to back, which Burnham just giving us absolute gold as she's talking to the computer or trying to send a message to Discovery. I cannot explain what I'm looking at. You can. The bright light must be where the tech is. It does not. It doesn't have to be any. She makes so many huge deductive leaps that end up being right that are unfounded.
My next one is high fives existing this far in the future.
That's fair. Yeah. I think we should all be at fist bumps or nods. Just nods. Stop touching each other unless it's necessary.
Yeah.
Hey, Burnham, way to prove yourself. You just killed the first plant that you found here.
Oh
just
my God.
fucking rips off a leaf.
I'm
what
basically
are you doing?
I'm basically seeing what people way more powerful than I have ever put together. Look at these beautiful plants that are lining between these portal thingies. I better rip one up for funsies.
Look at the inherent violence in this species.
After she's drawn a weapon as well. It's like, let me just show who I am. I'm going to draw a weapon and I'm going to rip up your shit.
But guess what? I'm not going to draw a weapon when a breen runs at me. What's the point of having an instant teleporting weapon that you don't use as soon as somebody runs at you?
Why are we touching?
Teleport a spear.
Yeah. Why are we touching?
Impale that breen.
The invisible floaty, the shadowy shit. Why are we touching things? Don't touch things.
Got here. Stop touching things.
Stop touching things.
Well, that leads to the super convenient hurricane gust jump. I guess lucky you were in a really windy place so that you could hurricane airbend your way back up to the platform.
Let's see. What other ones we got here? One of my first things. Do we really have time for a slow-mo fight in the rain? Do we have?
Apparently we do.
We do. We really, really do.
So much. It's shot with such importance, and yet it's such disappointing fight choreography. I can't even say the choreography is bad because I can't see any of it. It could be great. I just can't see it. I had an interesting point, an argumentative one perhaps, when Admiral Vance is talking to Saru about his mission, and he's like, I'm not going to send you out there without any torpedoes. What the fuck is a shuttle with torpedoes going to do against a Breen armada? Like, at that point, they may as well be unarmed. Like, 100 torpedoes ain't going to make the difference. You may as well send him with nothing because what he does have will not make a dent.
It's kind of like
silly.
It's kind of like, you know what? I'm going to send a couple mosquitoes after you. This is only going to itch for like 48 hours, but at least I'm going to make you itch.
At least you'll feel good about it when you burn. Num.
Why did Michael just fucking pinch her? Just pinch her. You've already done it once.
Neck
just
pinch.
Fucking neck
Stunner.
pinch her.
Stunner. And like,
Come
just
on.
be a traitor, be a coward.
Be a Vulcan
as soon
for
as she
once.
gives over her weapon, just pull out your stun gun and just stun her. Just like, not a problem anymore, just in case you double cross me because I know you will.
Why didn't she know that was coming? Why did she turn her back? We already said that part during the show.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
It happens.
Yeah.
I don't know whose turn it is. We're just
Doesn't
going
matter.
rapid fire. I said I was just going to do nitpicky stuff, but this is a pretty fundamental one that annoyed me. Culber's Janal thing didn't work for me because we spent a good amount of time a few episodes ago with him like contemplating the meaning of his existence and all of that stuff. And now it just feels a bit cheap because it was leading up to this where he's just like, I finally found my purpose. It's to give you the frequency of the tractor beam. And I'm like, and that's satisfying to him. And I'm like, okay, the end goal was great, but I was expecting something bigger, and maybe I've missed it because they didn't get a lot of time to talk about it, and maybe it's just his comfortability with the unknown, and maybe the journey is that he now doesn't have to have all of the answers anymore. But it felt anticlimactic as well when he just swooped in and was like, this is my purpose. And I was like, oh, I totally forgot that you were having an existential crisis.
Yeah.
I forgot you were here doing things.
And then the whole thing where it's just like, I know I shouldn't be able to access their memories, but I sure can. And you know what? Sometimes you just shouldn't ask questions. Just go with it. Mm-hmm. That was very much on the... I was like, you're talking to us. You're talking to the viewer.
Problem now, science later. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what this season should have been called.
I'm going to steal some from the chat because chat's fucking great. So David says, Sin, computer, tell me when the next gust is coming. How do you know that there will be a next gust? And after just one, how can the computer know that there will be another one? I'm guessing that was because like the swell of the storm somehow, but it was really, really convenient that it was all happening. And maybe even the bigger sin is from Sci-Fi Brony, who is like, what are the odds that some of the Breen went through the same gateway?
Oh, yeah. There was only like 100%. 3 Breen that went through total.
Yeah. And how do we...
Crazy.
It's like, you know what? Let's all go into the one that's in the floor we have to fall through.
Right.
Okay.
There was that weird thing where she solves a puzzle and I'm like, good for you, but I don't understand what you just solved. And it's when she's talking to Mol about it's the negative space. It's the bit in between. And somehow that she solves something that gives her access to the cabbage field where the actual progenitor tech is. And I'm like, it's really clear that she used some deductive reasoning to solve something about the wobbly force field, but I'm not with you on the journey. You left me way, way behind. I don't know what puzzle you just solved, either. But I don't understand it.
This one's got to be a fan one. The baseball is too clean to be Cisco's.
I thought the same thing. Yeah, agreed. He was throwing that thing around, but maybe they cleaned it up. Or maybe Cisco hasn't got it yet because of time travel.
Oh, shit.
That the ball and the visor are pre-Cisco and Geordie.
Oh, we'll never know.
There we go. We'll never know. So I'm right.
Anything else?
Let's have a look. Why? This is my biggest sin of the episode, I think. Why just didn't the original scientists blow it up?
And why?
It's
why
fundamental.
Didn't they? And why is the puzzle just the negative space to make a big fucking triangle?
I don't know what that.
What does the triangle mean?
None of these puzzles prove. It proves that you're good at Sudoku, I guess. It doesn't prove that you're a good person. And they hammered it home. Burnham hammered it home again. Like, we solved all of these clues and we learned about stuff. Yeah, you learned about it. It just means that you're aware of it. It doesn't mean that that is your core. It doesn't mean that that is who you are and that you're going to use this for good. It's a complete fluke that Mole didn't find the right answer.
Yeah, it's weird.
Kind of.
It's weird.
It's weird.
Wandering says, how did the scientists solve the negative space triangle? Because they didn't have any fucking clues. Okay, I added a couple extra words into Wandering's message there, but I'm emphasizing because I also agree. Like, yeah, like she.
How did
had
they figure out
clue.
The triangle thing?
Michael had the clue for the final clue.
You're right.
Good one, Wandering.
Maybe it was easier than that. Maybe no.
Link says the triangle is the gateway to the Triforce, guys. That's how we. That's it.
True. I think that's actually all that I have because we kind of hit it pretty hard during the main episode.
We did.
Yeah. I'm still annoyed about that teasing saucer section. Well,
you would have missed it had I not said anything.
You absolutely would have. I absolutely would have done. I can. It can still be disappointing. Yeah, I think we've covered absolutely everything. This was a big swing, like taking on Discovery Season 5 with no prior knowledge. Thank you for joining us upon this journey into Discovery. Ambassador, I'm truly glad that you didn't hate it. I'm glad that you have another 10 episodes of Star Trek under your belt.
Yep.
What do you take away from Discovery?
Probably my Discovery badge. Like, I feel like I am collecting sort of this like Star Trek badge. Like, I have the sash. And I'm just collecting little things along the way. And so I definitely feel like I earned my spot for having a Discovery badge. I really liked this season a lot. even knowing that I was going to be disappointed with the ending almost kind of no matter what. I don't know that I set myself up for failure, because I really do want to reflect on this again, because there's just some scenes in here that I really feel like I missed. I want to go back, and if I had any time to do something like this, is just edit the pieces together without going back and forth and let myself sit into some of those moments a little more. I feel like I would have connected more with Rainer in this episode and things like that. But then what they decided to do with these characters, especially Rainer, for me, was really, really fun this season. So I'm glad to have watched it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Starfleet Academy is a new show that's coming, and it will be set during this timeline. So I think we will be seeing some of these characters again. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Saru, Rainer, almost certainly be seeing Tilly. So I think that's going to be that'll be interesting. We will most likely cover that, especially now that we've done Disco season 5.
Well, and they did set up also that there's going to be a mentorship program. So that means that they can bring in like little one-off episodes where a character can kind of return. Even Michael can return, because we jump forward into the future to see what's going to happen, but then we can go back in time and sort of almost see, the different people. And
they were very cagey about any specifics other than Burnham and Book. So there's nothing that's going to be like, oh, but in the future that didn't happen. Short of Discovery blowing up, which they obviously won't do that. Now. We thought that Discovery was going to be a big swing. I'm actually more nervous about our next theme. This may last 1 week. It may last 5 weeks. We'll see how this goes. We're going to what has lovingly been dubbed by our Trek Discord. I think David came up with the name. We're going to do some Trek Roulette, which is something that we've toyed with previously, where Deneé, we're going to tap into Dené's imagination. She is going to describe something that she pulls from her brain, and I am going to see if that can be related, shoehorned, or be made something that has happened in Star Trek, and that's how we're going to pick our next episode. Oh my gosh.
So here's how I think this is going to work. Correct me if I'm wrong. At the end of today's episode, so come up here in just a moment, we're going to actually start this off so you guys know what to watch before next week. And then at the end of every episode, it kicks the next episode off. So
exactly.
So that's how this is going to go, which, guys, it just means that your podcast is going to be even longer.
Yeah. It shouldn't take too long, because I think your imagination is great. I'll edit this down. But
what? You can't edit down my imagination?
I absolutely have to every single week, Ambassador. I have no choice. So yes, thank you, David Sci-Fi Brony, for the Trek Roulette title. I think it's very fitting. Let's see how this works.
Okay, so what part of the ship are we going to be going to for this?
Oh, this is the holodeck for sure. I know we already used the holodeck, but I am plugging in the wires into the panel in the side of your head, and like you've just described an episode of I've just described an episode of Star Trek.
Okay.
There's an episode where they literally they plug Data's brain into the holodeck, and they get to experience his dreams.
Oh my god, this is so exciting. Okay, I'm ready. Let's toot a spore. We're sporing to the holodeck.
To the holodeck.
Accessing library computer data.
I mind to your mind.
Vulcans never bluff.
Ambassador, give us your imagination.
Okay, I'm seeing a purple funnel, like we're traveling through like a wormhole type thing. It's purple. There's definitely it's blue too. And then we pop out, and there's confusion on the bridge. There's confusion about where we are, and I feel like Guinan is there, and she has this sense there's something going on. So I don't know if there's a Guinan type character. Like, I don't know if I should tell you when I see a character or just tell you what pops into my imagination.
Yeah, pop into your imagination. I may not be able to apply all of it.
Here's what I see. I see Guinan kind of looking up there's sort of the sixth sense thing going on. What kind of an alien is she? I almost called her a creature.
She's an Elorian.
Okay.
Elorian.
She's got something going on. And so she kind of looks up, and there's somebody that's in front of her, and they're looking at her as if she knows something. Okay, that's the first thing that I see.
Yep, okay.
Should I keep adding more details to make it more complicated?
I'm picking between two. So this is where my thoughts went. You started describing a wormhole. All of the colours shouted Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
There's panic on the bridge.
Yeah.
So I was thinking something with the Defiant in Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
But then you said Guinan, which obviously plants us in TNG.
Definitely more like that.
Now, there is a wormhole episode in TNG called The Price.
Ooh,
which... It's called The Price. It's a horrible episode. I don't want to watch it.
Why? Why?
What you described was much more like the Guinan being confused and recognizing
sensing
somebody,
something. Yeah.
sensing something is very much yesterday's Enterprise. And that's something we've talked about before. So maybe your subconscious is tapping into that because the confusion is around Tasha.
Okay,
So,
but is there a wormhole? Or is that just in my imagination when I'm getting into Star Trek mode, I'm inside and we're like warping, you know? Is that what I'm going to see every time we start the sequence?
you may always see a wormhole.
This is my first time.
Confusion around Guinan absolutely fits with yesterday's Enterprise, and it's an amazing episode.
Okay.
For Deep Space Nine, if we're talking about like confusion on like the Defiant, on like the bridge through the wormhole, so this will be a Deep Space Nine episode called One Little Ship.
Okay.
So I think the choices that we've got based on, and there's always going to be a little bit of a TNG bias because that's where my knowledge is best.
And mine
But
too?
Yeah, so either I think it's going to be yesterday's Enterprise or One Little Ship, so Deep Space Nine or TNG.
Okay, so here's the question. Now, because we're kind of like making this up as we go. You're the only one that knows some of the specifics of each of them, so maybe you can ask a really nebulous question like, "What color are the walls?"
That's a good question.
Like, what color are the walls? Or does it define the ship that you see? Or is there anything interesting happening in space? Like, kind of like not a leading question, but more like a question that I could like access my
Bounce off
brain.
of.
Yeah.
Are we fighting with confusion or are we fighting with physicality?
The fuck does that mean?
So is this some mind problems that we have to do, or is this some physical problems that we have to overcome?
Okay, so you said that, and again, sorry, we're experimenting with this, and maybe I shouldn't, specifically say Guinan, but that's the person I see in my imagination. Now, it's up to the captain if he knows that it's actually a different character, and I'm just describing something completely different, right? Like, that's up to the captain. So she swats at something. Is that physical or is that mental? I don't know.
That's physical.
Is it?
Yeah, and there is some swatting in one of the episodes.
Okay, kind of like a bug or something like that.
Yeah, well, now you're definitely leaning towards one episode more than the other now, as you've said, bug.
Like the camera angle is kind of like it when like if you were the fly and you're just like zooming around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's we're not going Guinan. We're now One Little Ship. So
or One Little Shipping.
We are firmly into there. Next week we won't do character names. We'll try. I think the vaguer you keep it, the more wiggle room I have as well. So let me just get the episode title up for that. This is a fun one.
Oh my gosh! Do I have it?
Yeah, you got it.
The chat's freaking out that I did great. And by freaking out, I mean one person was very excited. Okay, there's multiple people. Okay.
So we're going to be doing Season 6, Episode 14 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, One Little Ship. And it will be interesting when we watch the episode to kind of refer back to how much Deneé accidentally predicted / what she envisioned. We'll do a little recap as we head over to 10 Forward. But that's your homework for next week. That's a fun episode. That's a fun one to start next season. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the chaos that is this show. Does it have any parameters? Very minimal. Do we stick to the minimal parameters that we put in place? Very rarely. Just like the best holodeck programs. With that, Ambassador, thank you as always, and we will see you next week. And until then, I've got to quantumly entangle the spore drive.
And it's what is most meaningful to you from me.
And as always, live long and prosper.
Thanks for listening. Want to connect with the show? Our hailing frequencies are always open through captainspod@cinemasins.com. Like, comment, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Actually, we should talk about what this box is filled with.
We should talk about what that box is filled with. Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Well, I'm also wearing a very nice custom made badge.
High quality.
That you can see here. This is the official badge of the Derpa Prize. Maybe not this Enterprise, we'll see. But that is a box filled with tribbles because without watching a single episode, we have made Iris Star Trek obsessed.
Yeah.
We did it.
So my mother purchased some books for Ian, and one of them is this book called Search for Spock, which is basically a Star Trek Where's Waldo. And so Ian and Iris anytime Ian is with us, he has to ride in the back seat of the car directly beside Iris because she's obsessed with Ian.
I'm her person.
I think it has all started with you having a beard. Like, you're the first person she's ever seen with a beard.
Yeah. She didn't like the beard to begin with. She wanted me to shave it off. And now it's just become integral to me. And she just now loves the beard.
So there Ian is in the back seat with this book, and they begin to do the search for Spock. Let's start here. Iris does not want to call Spock Spock.
Yep.
For some reason, it's hard for her to say.
She doesn't like Spock.
And-
Yep.
Yeah.
It's probably my accent as well that's confusing her, because how I say Spock isn't how you say Spock. You're closer to like Spark.
Yes. So she says Spark.
Yeah,
So
Spark.
she's saying, I want to know. So then she starts asking about Spark, and she starts asking questions about Star Trek. And I'm driving, and I'm kind of glancing up in the rearview mirror, watching Ian just turn into the most happy man on the planet.
What? And this was not intentional. It was just, here's something to do with me. I didn't like force this onto her. It was, this is a cool thing to do. Let's do it together.
Yeah.
As all great experiments happen, of course, this book, each different double-sided full cover thing is a scene from the original series, and it's from like an episode or an amalgamation of episodes. So she's asking questions about who these aliens are, who Spark is,
Why he, yeah.
what's
why does he have
happening in
pointy
this
ears?
episode, what's happening in this adventure, how do I spot Spock? Because I said, well, he's got pointy ears, he's usually in blue, he usually has like a scanning device on his hip, and he has a very serious expression. Of course, she says, well, why does he have a serious expression? Well, Vulcans like to suppress their emotions, and they keep them really, really under wraps. That tweaked something in her brain. And for the following 2 weeks, every now and again, it's just like,
Questions.
why does Spock want
But
to
why
suppress
is
his
that?
emotions? Why do
How
Vulcans
does he
want to
do
do that?
it?
Like, she wants to know why Vulcans do what they do. And
Well, and so much more, too. Everything on the page is a question.
Yeah.
And in an interesting twist, everything on the page has an answer from Mr. Star Trek himself. So in Iris's eyes, Ian is already like the coolest person, but now he has the answer to every question. And so she's like, for the past couple weeks, just been on this Star Trek kick, but it started here with this book in the back seat. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm watching history happen right now.
It's amazing. We'll always remember this.
So we took videos because every time she said Spark instead of Spock,
It's so funny.
it was like watching the Grinch's heart grow. You know, where it's like what is happening
Where's
to me? Because he's like,
Spark?
oh my God.
So much, and she got
was
so
so sweet.
excited when she would find him, and we eventually get to a page which is, of course, filled
The Tribble
with
page.
tribbles.
Yeah.
And this was just like, this is so perfect. Of course, tribbles are the perfect gateway drug into Star Trek. So she was like, well, what are those furry things? What are they? And I said, well, those are called tribbles. And they're basically just balls of fur that purr. And all they do is eat and have babies. That's all they do. And they're adorable. So this leads to showing her a video of tribbles. And then we're having lunch one day, and she's like, can we just listen to tribbles purring? So we've just got this video on a loop just of tribbles purring.
Anyhow, we get to this triple part. We get home. She's asking all these Star Trek questions. Ian is on cloud 9.
It's
And
amazing.
she, of course, wants to make her own tribble. And the cool thing about Ian is that he is an engineer, just like Iris is. And so we're talking like all of a sudden, the instructions are, hey, every time you come across anything that's tube shaped or like egg carton-esque, just save it,
Save
please.
it for me so I can make spaceships
because-
and robots.
Yeah. So then they get together, and I'll come around the corner, and they're just on the floor creating things. And anyway, so I come around the corner, and they're creating tribbles. They're creating tribbles with interesting things. And of course, I jump in because I'm also an engineer minded. I love creating things. And so I go and I get the pillow stuffing that I have in my craft, like little area. And I come around the corner. I was like, I have so much of this fluff.
Let's use it.
And so they are then taking the fluff out, and then they're kind of mashing it together, and they're trying experimental ways to make the tribble stay in a tribble ball. And every time I come around the corner, there's more and more tribbles. And she's talking about how Ian will say, you know the trouble with tribbles, right, Iris? And Iris says, they multiply. Instead of multiply and duplicate, she says multiplate, which is fucking amazing.
So great.
Then all of a sudden I come around the corner and they've decided to reenact the scene from Star Trek with basically no instruction. All Ian has said is, I'm going to put all of the tribbles in this box. You're going to beep, boop, 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 like the panel from the video.
So from the original series, we showed her the video of Captain Kirk pressing the button and just being covered in tribbles because it's hilarious. And she thought it was so funny, and it was so funny. So that's what we recreated.
So I was the one in charge of the video camera. So I'm videoing, and I've got Ian like out of the camera. We actually should share this sometime because it's a great video.
Yeah, I'll try and get it uploaded now. If not, we'll definitely share it next week.
Yeah. That we took 2 videos, probably the second one's shorter.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the first video we took, she like beep boop boop boops, and then Ian opens the panel, and then all of these, hairy balls start. Let's
wait.
All of these hairy tribbles start falling out of this container, and she falls to the ground, and she and then all of a sudden, from her own imagination, she's like, somebody shut that door.
It was perfect. She nailed it.
And we were we laughed hysterically. She thought she was so funny.
Shut that door. It was amazing. She nailed it. She absolutely nailed it.
So we have officially begun the Star Trek indoctrination, and the badge that you see Ian wearing is the badge that Iris has made, because guess what else has happened in the past couple of weeks? I'm just going to keep telling all of our stories if that's okay. So Iris and I were hanging out. We're doing our thing. Ian comes over, and Ian comes around, and we're playing, what was the game? Uno.
Playing Uno, Uno flip.
Iris decides who she's on a team with. You can guess who she's on a team with. I used to be the cool person that she wanted to hang out with. No more.
It's me. I know more about Star Trek.
So they're over there on that side, and they decide that they're going to be Team Enterprise, which evolves into Team Star Trek.
She changes it to Team Star Trek because she says that Team Star Trek is my favorite thing, and the Enterprise is inside Star Trek, so Star Trek is everything. So yeah, we're Team Star Trek now when we have a Star Trek dance.
I'm feeling like shit because I have
what was your team name?
My team name that she assigned to me is Team Nails.
Team Dog and Nail Polish.
Team Nail Polish and Dog.
Great.
By the way, I don't have anybody on my team. It's just
you.
Just me
and
on the other side of the
past.
counter. When they won, and they won many times together, they went absolutely apeshit.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah,
let's
go Team Star Trek, let's go. And then Ian would be like, red alert, and then they're just chanting, and it was out of control.
It was the Star Trek battle cry, and it was just yay.
I mean, she's trying to figure out what characters we're going to be from Star Trek, and let's transition there. Ian, can you please tell everybody which fucking character Iris has chosen to be?
This was amazing. This was incredible. This happened a couple of days ago, and we're talking about being on Team Enterprise. Which character would we be? And she doesn't want to. Her favorite character is Spock so far, but she doesn't want to be the same necessarily as Ambassador Deneé.
We're trying to be characters that she's seen so far. Pick the ones that she's seen. Which, by the way, there are plans to expand her. We're gonna watch Prodigy.
So I ask her, which character would you want to be if it's not Spock? And she says, I want to be the lady with the tribble. And I assume that she meant Uhura, because when we looked through the video, there's a picture of Uhura holding the tribble. But she then says, I want to be the lady that's scanning the tribbles.
The bombs.
Scanning the tribbles to see if there's a bomb and to get rid of the bomb.
And I was so confused.
Now, when we were listening to the tribble background music, it has screen grabs from the different episodes that tribbles are in. And there is a screenshot of Jadzia Dax and Cisco scanning tribbles. And I was just like, you want to be Jadzia? And she was like, yeah, I want to be Jadzia.
She didn't know that what she was saying.
That was so perfect.
So anyways, I am officially on the path of having to love this character.
You're going to have to now because it's the one your daughter wants to be.
Of course, she gets to be Jadzia. So then we talked about Trills and how she's now got a worm in her body. That was exciting. It was very confusing.
I had to explain how, I had to explain how old Dax.
What's a Trill?
I had to explain how old Dax was, and that she has an alien inside her. So it took a little bit of explaining. One of the other hilarious things was that one of the pages in the Search for Spock book, I didn't vet these ahead of time. So we get onto the page, and it's this. The theme is red shirts.
It's a 2-page spread.
And it is a 2-page spread massacre of red shirts. Everyone is dead. Some of them have lost legs. Dead. Some of them have lost torsos.
They're like hanging out of trees.
So
everyone is dead. So she's just like looking for Spock, like going,
So the only thing I can do is like, she eventually twigs. She's like, what's wrong with that person? What's wrong with that person? Why is that guy so happy? And the guy that's really happy is a Klingon, like just holding up a phaser in the air. So I just explained that there's a running joke in Star Trek where if the security guys, the red shirts, they're the ones that protect the ship, and sometimes they die to save the ship, and that's what this joke is about. So I was just really honest and just made it a joke. And we eventually find Spock, and she's like, Spock is using the dead bodies as camouflage.
And I'm just like driving the car going, what's going on back there?
I was like, he is. Isn't that clever? Yeah, Spock isn't dead though, is he? Nope, Spock is alive.
Nope, he's totally fine.
But the red shirts
Moving
are dead.
on.
And I'm like, yep, the red shirts are super dead. I've been doing some deep work, Deneé. Last year,
already?
I was talking to her about the Enterprise and just what the Enterprise meant to me, and it's on my screensaver. So now she's like, wait, the Enterprise is Star Trek? Everything is like looping
it's all coming
back
together.
and it's all
You're
coming
such a
together.
diabolical person. Look at you.
And I haven't had to show her
indoctrination.
1 second of Star Trek yet. Well, I have.
We did watch the
I have
Tribbles now.
Yeah, we've seen the Tribbles.
Watched the Tribbles.
So that's amazing. There was one other beautiful, amazing full circle moment when you and Iris were doing In the Rounds for a song.
This was a fun moment. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
So obviously, it's row, row, row your boat, for example, you can do In the Round. So somebody starts at one point, and then the next person starts at the next verse, etc. And Star Trek fans already know where I'm going with this. You were doing one about a kookaburra in a tree or something.
There's a song about kookaburra in an old gum tree that I learned when I was in school, and I don't have a whole bunch of people just around me ready to sing kookaburra sits in the old gum tree. I used the phone and I recorded myself doing it, and then I sang to myself in the rounds, to teach her in the rounds, and she was so excited about it. But I was like, you know this song. You know Row, Row, Row Your Boat. This is also a song on the rounds. And so, yeah, we started doing that. And I made Ian sing. I was like, Ian,
I did. I jumped in on one part of it. And, of course, that made me think of a time in Star Trek when our favourite people sang In the Rounds. So
we did, including Spock.
Including Spock. I mean, I had to show her it because it was Spock. He was in it.
It was Spock. And Kirk.
It means that we have... The first Star Trek movie that she's seen a clip from is Star Trek V: The Final Frontier, which is an interesting record to put upon a child.
Well, I will say when she saw Spock, she was like, oh, there he is, there's Spock.
And because he has a great line, like they're going round and they start singing, and the camera cuts over to him and he's like, oh, sorry, was I like supposed to sing? He's just
she
like
thought that was
blank,
funny.
and she just cracked up. Like, she loves that he's so like deadpan and serious, but because he's a good guy as well. That's the main thing.
We are ready to run when you are captain.
Let's do it. I did get something in my mouth that time.
Gross. How did did you get something in your mouth from your throat?
Like some
did you actually
food in my beard or something like that just
How did
liberated
you cough
itself.
and then have something from your beard get into your
I
mouth?
just coughed and then it dislodged it from my mustache into my mouth.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. That's why I went there. I didn't go yum. I agree.
Like, I guess if it was just in your teeth, it'd be like, I don't know.
No, I think it was pancake. Pretty sure it was pancakes. Syrupy. Right.
I can't think about anything other than you taking a deep breath, inhaling pancake that was hanging out in your fucking mustache, and then coughing on it, and then it projects back out.
Yeah, I'm going to aim for that
and
camera.
It's like this ever cycle of it, like going back. Do you know what I mean?
My mustache catches it. Yeah.
It's a circle, okay? Because it's the circle of life.
Yeah, or you make one
It's a circle.
big
You're going to use all the triangles to make a beautiful circle.
Condensed.
Big triangle, but not right. It's a circle.
That would be
Saucer
amazing.
separation. Oh shit! You're missing the saucer separation.
Did I? Shit.
You totally just fucking missed it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you did. We should back up.
Yeah,
Let's go back
that's where I'm at.
to 48, 16, 17, 18.
That was anticlimactic.
A space cabbage patch, Ian.
I don't know what I'm looking at.
It's a space cabbage patch. Oh my gosh.